Hello, this is Professor Grant Thrall. In previous videos we have calculated trade area polygons using the methods of drive distance, Voronoi, and ring. In this video we're going to calculate a grid layer, form a GIS overlay, and pass information such as population count between two different years from one layer to the other. Okay, tools, geographic utilities, create vector grid, a grid of area, line, or point, and I want area, and I want it with 4 points. I would like a square grid. I will cover the entire window with this grid layer, and I want each side of the grid to be 1 mile. There, now we can see our grid a bit better. We must be concerned with the modifiable area unit problem. In future videos, we'll deal with the sometimes referred to as its abbreviation MAUP, MAUP. For now, I'll just point you in the direction of Wikipedia, and they have a nice discussion that is classic MAUP. So what one might do then is create several grids of different sizes and of different foci, and then evaluate if your results of your overlays are, if they're stable. For now, I am only interested in the grid layer that overlies Alachua County. There's two ways to do that. First is I will make grid as the working layer, tools, geographic utilities, and clip by area. I have a polygon of Alachua County 12001. And I'll call this grid 2 12001 clip. Now, what we see is I've created the clip layer as a light blue layer, and the original layer that we clipped remains as the maroon layer. Turn off the clip layer, the maroon is still there. Turn on the clip layer, and now I'll turn off the whole layer. You see is that we have clipped it to the boundaries of the county. Now, there's a problem with this. And the problem is that we like to hold, in much of our analysis, we like to hold geography constant. And we're not doing that with the clip procedure. I'll zoom in and I'll show you what the problem is. And I'll make this grid a bit more wide, and I'll choose a deeper color. Well, this very nicely is clipped to the boundary of Alachua County, which follows a river system and so forth. We've lost holding geography constant. These cells are of different sizes. And visually that can provide a bias for us, as well as when we do subsequent spatial analysis, we can bias our results in an unknown direction. So clipping must be done with caution. I prefer another method. The second method is to perform a geospatial selection. I'll zoom out to the original grid we created. Make sure that grid is the working layer. Then I go into selection, select by location. and I'm going to select the grid cells if they touch or are contained by the feature Alachua County 12001, a polygon I had saved in a previous session. I'm going to call it Grid 3 12001 selection. Selection method. And you see that these are now selected, that they're highlighted. And I will Tools Export, and so export to a standard geographic file, and to save it as a file, Grid 3 12001 overlay. And with that done, I can hide that layer and bring in the layer that I just saved. And now let's zoom in on the corner. Let's bring in the other layer too that we had, the clip, so we can see the difference. I will make Grid 3, the selection method grid, bluish. And now let's zoom in on the northeast corner of Alachua County. We see a very different pattern then of grid cells. Instead of following the county boundary, they are included if they touch, as this cell is doing, or if they are contained. That's a very significant difference between this partial cell and this full cell. Now, both of which can bring about bias. I believe that when we're performing an overlay, we certainly don't want to include information that's out here. On the other hand, when we show this as a thematic map, it might be best to include the entire cell as a thematic map. So we might produce, to achieve that, we would do our overlay with our clipped grid, and then overlay our selected grid on top of the clipped grid for our subsequent thematic map.